Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Difiaba One Color Line, Six Ways to Shine. This is your virtual class experience. My name is Frank Magri. I am Director of Education and Information for Difiaba, and I am mostly in the US and in several Western European countries. Um, and so today's class is really to present our new messaging and our new way to shine with Difiaba Color. So for those of you that use Difiaba Color currently, you know that Difiaba Color has always been a multifunctional tool, right? So what we're going to do on this class is we're going to highlight the 6 different ways that you can use Difiaba Color, because while we're all familiar with Difiaba being a permanent tool, a demi-permanent tool, and a tone-on-tone or glossing tool, there are other features in the Difiaba Color portfolio that I feel like sometimes get overlooked or underutilized. So some of this class is going to be newer information. And some of it is just going to be a deeper dive into what we've already known and what we love about Difiaba. So with that being said, I'm going to allow Michael to introduce himself and tell us his experience with Difiaba Color.
Hello, everyone, and thank you, Frank, for having me here today. My experience with Difiaba has been an absolute positive one. I came aboard about a year ago, actually, and was introduced particularly to the Charcoal collection, and eventually decided to go full force with Difiaba hair color. And it has been an honest to goodness, great transformation for me behind the chair and in my business, because I think the biggest wow that I've ever had is that color that I've used in the past hasn't always been exactly what you see, for me anyway, to the swatch book. And I thought that this was one of the most amazing things, along with the level of shine and the natural beauty of the color in itself. So I'm having tremendous success with it behind the chair. It's been amazing, and I'm using the full collection, and it's really transformed my business, honestly.
Awesome. Thank you, Michael. Yeah, and
Yeah, you're
so
welcome.
as Michael mentioned, when we launched Difiaba Color and the whole portfolio to the state of California, Michael was one of the first people I met. We were coming in to talk about the Charcoal collection, and then I said, "Oh, by the way, have you tried Difiaba Color?" And Michael had told me he was an educator for multiple brands, so we really got in conversation about Difiaba Color and the benefits of it and what makes it different, the features and benefits that make it different from other color lines. And so that's kind of how that unfolded. So I'm honored to have you here, Michael, because I think that you bring a wealth of experience and knowledge to the education platform. So let's talk about One Color Line, Six Ways to Shine. So with Difiaba, there are 6 ways to use it. But before we begin, I just want to talk a little bit about who we are, right? So Difiaba Color is made in Italy, right? We are a boutique brand is what I like to call it, right? So Difiaba is a boutique brand. We are owned by a family who has a passion for the hair industry. Our founder and our owners have been in the hair industry for several generations, and Difiaba was founded with a passion for artistry and innovation. Our products are made in Italy, and then they are distributed throughout the world. We're in somewhere around 15 countries. Correct me if I'm wrong. I know there's someone on here that knows how many countries we're in, but we are in Europe, we are in Central and South America, obviously North America, and we're growing really fast, right? So, but what I like to tell people is that we have a passion for uh, blending innovation with plant-based ingredients, right? So that's some of what we're going to learn today in this presentation. But just know that our products are EU compliant. We follow the strictest codes as imposed by the European Union when it comes to making our products. They are made in Italy, so they have to be. Once they are made, then they are distributed to their respective countries, and we have warehouses in those countries where the product lives, and then you go ahead and order it. And our mission is life is more beautiful in color. So what we believe is that artistry and innovation can meet to transform the way that you can create with your hair color, right? Because we believe that life is more beautiful in color. And so on this slide, you'll see the three categories of brunette, blonde, and redhead, right? So whenever I do a presentation or a launch, and my friends from Estonia know this, we always feature three different models, right? Brunette, blonde, and redhead. There's so many variations of that, and there are so many trends of that. But Difiaba Color is known for its vibrancy. And that vibrancy comes from a specific innovation called micropigment. Micropigments give you more vibrant, long-lasting color. And so life is more beautiful in color, and we can make that happen with our innovation combined with the artistry of the individual. And so, Michael, tell us about why Difiaba Color.
So I will tell you that, and this is just from my experience of using it, but not just from the PowerPoint that you're seeing, but there is a superior color quality to it. And that lends to the shine factor. So we have three promises with Difiaba hair color, and that is superior quality and performance, versatility for even the modern stylist, along with an inventory, efficiency and value. But what's more is that we look for conditioning, we look for shine, and we look for outstanding shine throughout the entirety of the service. So I think for a 3-ounce tube of what you're getting, in what that 3-ounce tube can do for you is not just permanent, but it's also a semi-permanent, right? And so I think when you're looking at brand positioning for your own salon, you want to look at what's the most effective. And when I look at Difiaba, I use it as an all-inclusive platform as for color. So I do use it for the permanent aspect. I use it for the demi-permanent aspect and the all-over gloss tone on tone. So I find it has a very, very rich value for my business.
Awesome. Yeah, I wanted you to speak to that because you are a stylist behind the chair, full-time stylist behind the chair. And so I can speak to the superior quality and the performance innovation. And the superior quality is the fact that we use the purest pigments on the market. So that is our micropigment technology, pure pigment. And the innovation is the fact that the tube can be used in multiple ways, either a permanent color, a demi-permanent color, or a tone-on-tone gloss. The versatility also speaks to the multiple uses, but the inventory efficiency and the value is really something that I think stands out for your independent stylists, those of you that are in either a independent suite or booth renter situation. Having a 3-ounce tube that can be used in 3 functions, meaning permanent, demi, or gloss, really helps to cut down on having an overextensive amount of color in your color room, right? So if your space is challenging, or maybe you don't have a lot of capital to invest in 150 tubes, right? We are 94 tubes that can be used 3 different ways. And so this is really efficient when it comes to inventory and value. Now let's talk about the 6 ways to shine. So Difiaba is one color line, and there are 6 different uses. And so for those of you that have been to any of our classes or have taken any Difiaba education over the years, you already know the first 3, right? Superior gray coverage and long-lasting permanent color, demi-alkaline toning, which we're going to get into in a minute, and then demi-acidic toning. Demi-acidic toning is another option. So there's 2 different ways to tone. But so that one tube can be used in those 3 different ways. But what I feel like wasn't getting a lot of love, and this is why we changed our messaging, is we have the Ultra Lift series, which can be used multiple ways and create a lot of versatility. And within the Ultra Lift series, We have something called Ultra Lift Lifting Booster, which we use as a base breaker. So we're going to cover a little bit more about breaking bases today. And then, of course, our color intensifiers. I know that almost everyone that uses Difiaba Color is familiar with our intensifiers, but we're really going to unpack when you would use an intensifier and the biggest, most common question, if I'm using an intensifier, how much should I add? So these are the things that we're going to unpack today. This is going to be sort of the meat of what we're going to talk about today. The 6 different ways to use Difiaba Color, or what we affectionately call one color line, 6 ways to shine. So let's talk about color innovation and key ingredients. And so on this slide, you'll see the graph. There's a feature. What does it do? How does it work? And the client benefit. At the risk of sounding redundant, I'm not going to read this verbatim, but for those of you that are joining on a cell phone, you can screenshot this, right? And those of you that are on the computer, you can also take a picture of it with your cell phone, right? So these are when I said earlier, innovation meets plant-based ingredients, this is what I was talking about. And so I'm just going to unpack a little bit about the first column, which is the ammonia and the ethanolamine. I always affectionately refer to Difiaba Color as a hybrid between ammoniated color and ammonia-free color. What do I mean by that? Those of you that use or have used color that uses straight ammonia, ammonia is the most efficient alkalizer when it comes to permanent color and gray coverage. Ammonia gives you more vibrant tones, gives you more efficient gray coverage. And then there are a whole group of people who are part of the ammonia-free group, right? So there are clients that have sensitivities to ammonia. There are clients and stylists who just want something that seems more gentle. And so that's the ammonia-free category. Well, at Difiaba, we took the best of both worlds. Difiaba Color uses half the amount of ammonia as traditional ammoniated hair color and half the amount of ethanolamine, which is the active ingredient in ammonia-free hair color. And we created a hybrid between ammoniated and ammonia-free. Ethanolamine is an alkalizer similar to ammonia. It has a gentler property, meaning it doesn't turn into a vapor or a gas. When you mix ammonia and developer, you create a chemical reaction which turns the ammonia into a vapor. So ammonia turns into a gas and sort of leaves the concoction, but it does its job. It's a flash alkalizer, right? So it flashes the hair open and then it dissipates. Ethanolamine is more of a slow alkalizer. It slowly opens that cuticle, allowing the color to get inside, but it never leaves the concoction or never leaves the mixture. It stays oxidizing on the hair until it's rinsed out. So what we did was we used half the amount of ammonia to flash that cuticle open halfway, and then the ethanolamine takes you the other way. When I do this in a class, I affectionately say it's like taking a train from New York to California. The first half of your journey is the express train, and the second half of your journey is the local train, right? So that's kind of the ammonia ethanolamine rub, right? So we are a hybrid, which means we are a low alkaline, high performance formula. You get the efficiency of the ammonia and the gentleness of the ethanolamine, right? This provides a balanced, low alkaline environment for vibrant, long lasting color, suitable for both permanent and demi applications. It minimizes hair stress while ensuring vibrant results. And the client benefit, it leaves the hair with minimized damage, healthier and more vibrant over time, right? So I'm going to ask Michael to unpack the ultra pure, ultra fine, or what we call micropigment technology.
Yeah, thanks, Frank. So this is one of my favorite areas to talk about because I'm really kind of a science nerd when it comes to hair. And I know that you can't see it at eye level, but when we look at our micropigment technology, this is going to help ensure complete gray coverage. And ensuring complete gray coverage, you're really wanting to benefit from this knowledge because it's going to help benefit your client base. So our ultra pure pigments help to lock in color molecules to the hair fibers, which helps to deliver a richer, guaranteed, longer lasting color service, especially during the duration of the next 6 to 8 weeks, or based on whenever your clients do come in. Especially, when we think about that resistant gray, these ultra fine pigments or ultra pure pigments. They're so rich in color that when they adhere to the shaft and inside the cortex, they're actually bonding with the melanocytes that they're currently in. So it's actually impacting the color much more richer. With our ultra fine pigments, they're so fine that it actually mimics the size of the melanocyte inside the cortex shaft of the hair. So I think what's really important is that when you're mimicking that size and it's filling in the gaps, right? You're really allowing the hair to really absorb not just the ultra fine, but also that ultra pure too, right? Which is giving that much more easier, like just ultra coverage is what we're really looking for. And that's what this is doing. And I have to say, I have some really resistant gray clients, and this works perfectly amazing. Then better than my prior color that I was using. And in all honesty, it comes out very natural. It's not dark. It's not so opaque. It's true to tone. And that's what I think is so amazing about our micropigment technology.
Awesome. Thank you, Michael. The
Yeah, you're
simplest
welcome.
way I describe that, and I love the way you described it, where it mimics the size of the melanocytes. So when you color hair, again, that chemical reaction you create, you mix your color in your developer, the color goes inside. The alkalizer is the GPS. It tells it where to go, right? So the higher the alkaline, the more diffusion of natural melanin you're creating, right? So the color goes inside the hair cortex. It diffuses the melanin, or what I like to say, creates empty spaces in the cortex. And then your color molecules explode to fill those spaces. But what a lot of us don't realize is that when your color goes into the cortex, based on the amount of developer or the volume or percentage of the developer, those spaces that you create are all different sizes. Think of when you pour a beer or a soda into a glass, you get all those bubbles at the top, right? They're all different size bubbles. That's kind of what happens in the cortex. So because there are different size empty spaces or negative space that you're creating in the cortex, depending on the size of the space, molecules, traditional color molecules, may or may not fit in those spaces. If it's a larger space, multiple molecules rush in. But if it's a tinier, a smaller space, sometimes traditional size molecules aren't small enough to fit in that space. So those holes are left unfilled. With our micropigment technology, meaning ultrafine pigments, those pigments are small enough to fit into the tiniest of what I call nooks and crannies. And yet, where there's a larger space, multiple molecules rush in and link up together. So you're filling more negative space in the cortex with an ultrafine pigment. And then, as Michael just described, they are also what we call ultra pure. So they are the purest pigment available on the market. So you have sort of a twofold micropigment technology there. So thanks for that, Michael.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you.
And so those of you that use Difiaba Color, I know that one of the biggest compliments we get is from the client, specifically, my hair is so shiny with this hair color. It's always shiny immediately afterwards. And within, days and weeks after the hair's been colored, there's this noticeable shine, right? And what a lot of people didn't know, but probably know now, is that comes from what we call natural shine enhancers. And these are plant-based oils. They come from a combination of clove, lavender, and rose oil. These nourish and condition the hair, specifically the cuticle. As that cuticle is being swollen open, the plant-based oils are wrapping around those cuticle layers and sort of lubricating them to protect them from the dehydration that occurs. So you have natural shine enhancers, which nourish and condition the hair. And what they do is they condition and strengthen with natural oils, creating a protective barrier, enhancing luminosity. And this leaves the hair soft, manageable, and shiny post-color treatment. This will boost your client satisfaction. And last but not least, we have our coconut oil extract. What can you tell us about that, Michael?
So if you guys are well aware that many clients will start to talk about how they use coconut oil in their hair. Well, the coconut oil extract in this case is actually very deep conditioning, and we formulated it so that it deeply conditions the hair throughout the entire color service. So our technology has added moisture retention to help give that resilience during the color process. So from the time you apply it to the time that it's finished, it's infusing coconut oil extract throughout that entire like processing time. Okay. And also beyond, right? You'll feel it in the hair because it'll be softer and more manageable, of course. And so what makes it amazing is how it feels not just during the process, but also after that process. So when you're shampooing it out, when you're conditioning it, to the time you start to prep the hair for blow dry and styling, from the time you start to work your hands through it and place the hair where it wants to be in styling, you're going to notice this very, very manageable, soft fabric that the hair now becomes. So this deep conditioning agent that is the coconut oil extract is adding to the shine level that the clove lavender and the rose oil add. It works infused, if you will, synergistically to help really complete that entire service for that color. And I have to tell you, just working behind the chair, I raved and raved and raved to Frank. And we would talk on the phone for like a half an hour, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, whatever it was at a time. And I would rave to him and tell him, this is the color that I was meant to have. And I can't say enough about it because I've worked with so many color lines behind the chair that when landing with Difiaba, I had never dreamed that a color would be exactly what I wanted it to be for my business. And that has changed the way that I look at hair color. And there's no need for me to use anything else because now I can use this threefold. And that is amazing. So like we're talking about with the ammonia and the monoethanolamine to the ultra fine, ultra pure, to the clove, lavender, and rose oils, to the coconut oil extract, it becomes a complete color service. So I want to speak to that because it's important to understand that what a complete color service means. It means start to finish from the time you actually are integrating your chosen formula of developer with those shade ranges, you're getting a complete color service because of the ingredients involved, because of the technology involved, and because of the level of developer along with that level of ammonia. And then our level of ammonia is quite low. So, and it's quite astonishingly low in my opinion, and that's amazing. So, coconut oil extract in itself is a great, great addition to this color.
Thank you, Michael.
Yeah, you're welcome.
You know, I really wanted to piggyback on what you said about the coconut oil extract because when coconut oil became this fad or this craze, it was always why coconut oil? That was my question. And so coconut oil is very high in fatty acid. When you unpack the word fatty acid, fatty meaning moisture, acid meaning amino acid or protein, right? And hair is made of a combination of moisture and protein. So the coconut oil extract is replacing what we call the lipid profile for moisture and then strengthening the amino acids or the hair bonds essentially. And so you're replacing that as you're coloring the hair, which is an amazing thing to have in your hair color. Well, thank you for that. So
Yeah.
on this slide, what you're going to see, as I mentioned before about inventory efficiency, Difiaba Color has 94 shades. At the moment, we are what we call a compact offering, right? So speaking to that cost-effective, space-efficient talking point, there are 94 tubes in the line, smaller than most. And the reason why that's important is because in a lot of brands, you'll see a lot of what I call tertiary colors, meaning they have three numbers, right? So, for instance, the most obvious one is most brands have a red gold or a gold red. In Difiaba, we have reds and we have golds, and you can make your own custom version of a red gold or a gold red because we all know one size doesn't fit all. So, if you had a red gold or a gold red in another brand that was, specifically formulated into one tube, it would turn out different on everyone. So whenever you're doing red browns or copper browns or redheads, you're always striking that balance between how much red, how much gold, how much brown. And with Difiaba, we encourage you to make a more customized version of that. So we have three different natural series to choose from, which we'll unpack on another slide. But just know that the whole line represented is 94 shades total. You'll see up top the Ultralift series and the color intensifiers. We're going to unpack those in a minute, but these are your colors at a glance. How to read the tube. So, like most color lines, we use a combination of numbers, but we also use a combination of letters. Some color lines use just numbers, some use just letters. We use a combination of both. So how to read is obviously the number before the decimal point is always indicating the level. Difiaba comes in levels 1 through 10, and then we have our 11 series, which is our high lift. But the numbers after the decimal point or on the right-hand side are your primary tone. And if there's a second number present, it's your secondary tone, right? So if this were 9.1, it would be level 9 and a primary tonality of the 1, which is our ash. And then 972, it's the level 9. Primary tone is your 7, secondary tone is your 2. Your levels come in 1 through 10, which this is your level key. And your tonalities come in, as I said before, a combination of either numbers or letters, right? So the 0 stands for blue natural, which is our cool natural. The 2 or the 1 stands for ash, the 2 for violet, the 3 for golden, the 4 for copper, 5 for mahogany, 6 for red, 7 for indigo. And then the letters are the vibrant red or the chocolate. Chocolate is sort of what I consider a velvety brown color. It has a combination of primaries in there. It's got violet, blue, and yellow. So 2 primaries and a secondary. And it gives you this sort of balanced, warm brown that looks similar to a neutral, except that it's a little more velvety. It's a little more rich. And so when I go back to the how to read the tube, the numbers on the right side of the decimal point, in this case, the 7-2, you can see them represented here. Indigo blue is the 7, violet is the 2. So that would be a blue violet. So this color is 9BV or blue violet. And that's how you read them, right? So quick, easy reference. Michael, tell me about the natural series, the 3 different ones and why you would choose one over the other.
Great. So I use these quite a lot in the salon. So in being behind the chair, I see so much coming at me. And so it's great to have the versatility of gray coverage here too as well. So the natural series presents a lot of opportunities. And so with that, we're looking at the natural cools. And you'll see that we have the series goes from 1 to 10. And then we look at the natural warms and we look at what that shade range represents as far as 4 to 9. And then so on with the natural intense series. And our natural intense series is an addition to help with gray coverage. So it'll help you piggyback any of your choices here with the naturals or the natural warm series. When it comes to my gray coverage formulas, which I know we'll get into a little bit, I usually have a tendency to use 5 to 7 range for natural gray coverage, and those are the breadth, if you say, of my clientele when it comes to natural gray tones. So I'm always using either, say in conjunction with any of those three colors, I'm using either a 5, 6, or 7 NI. And 30% of my formula is going into with using natural NIs or the natural intent series. And so it's important to know how to use it and why I would choose to use it. So I would choose to use it based on desired level with my clients. I would say, for instance, I'll say a 6N. And a 6N with one of my clients, I would, depending on how stubborn I know her gray will be, I will either choose a 5NI based on how stubborn it is, or I'll match it with a 6NI. So therefore, it doesn't appear too rich, right, to cover the gray, because we want to keep a natural tonality versus kind of that shadowed root, if you will. When I'm using the natural warm series though, wow, it blew my mind. I got a chance to finally use it on my wife. And so we did a 5N with a 5NW, and it just resonates beautifully with this beautiful sun-kissed warm tone underneath. And it changes the primary of it, because when you're doing half and half series with the natural warms, what I find is that you're creating this really beautiful caramelish tone underneath, and it really changes like the profile from a 5N, which it has an underlying tone, as we know, is red. We're changing that profile and adding a little bit more of that warmth in place of that, giving it a little bit more of that caramelish tone. And it's such an enjoyable thing to see my wife's face, of course. In any case, we all know happy wife, happy life. But I will say, like, we had to match it with her extensions. And of course, we had to get the extensions, and then we had to put the color on, and then, and we had to make sure, because my wife is a very discerning client, and she's probably my most discerning client. But the 5NW resonated and perfectly with, not only just with her extensions, but with her skin tone, her eye color. And, that's one of the things that we always look at when we're experienced colorists. So I would say, like, when you're using any of these three shade ranges, you're really kind of in store for great coverage, whether it's just simply a natural paired with an NW. And my wife, of course, she's mature, I'll say. So the 5NW does an amazing job of being, an accompaniment to the 5N for great coverage. So you're not losing, just because it's warm, you're not losing coverage.
Right.
Okay, so I want to make sure that's important, because I know sometimes it becomes warm, we worry about losing coverage. You're not going to get that here. You're going to get the coverage.
I'll piggyback on that.
Yeah.
And what I wanted to say about these three different natural series is the natural cool is basically your neutral with an extra shot of blue. That's why when I was on this previous slide, there was, let me go back. The 0 stood for blue because it stands for the natural series, which is the natural blue, right? The natural warm is your neutral with an extra shot of yellow, right? So warm natural. And then your natural intense is your double natural. In most brands, that's called a double N series. We call it NI for natural intense. And so the short story is this. When you're covering gray, the amount of neutral or natural series you add to your formula is directly dependent on the amount of gray. 50% gray, it should be 50% of a natural series. 75% gray, it should be 75% of a natural series. However, when you're creating your coppers and your redheads and you want to add a natural to them, better to add the NW to keep it vibrant and warm, because we all know a natural or a natural intense will cool off that red and take away its vibrancy, right? Also, I like the NW series for toning, because if you have highlights and you want to bring them back down, rather than having to fill it, you have that extra shot of warmth to keep it from turning sort of bluish or murky. So I like to bring highlights back down with the NW series as opposed to a single neutral. And finally, quick rule of thumb, if you're going for an ash result, use the single N. If you're going for a warm result, use the NW. If you're going for a more opaque or less reflective result, choose the NI. That's the short story. Thank you for that, Michael. I want
Yeah,
to
no worries. Sorry, I got a little wordy on that. I get
That's
excited
okay.
for this,
That's
so
okay. I want to make sure we keep time and have enough
yeah,
time for the Q&A.
yeah,
Athena mentioned that the C series is her favorite, which I already knew.
yeah.
Someone else said, I never thought about mixing the N series together, but I love this idea and we'll use it right away. Courtney, just so you know, do not ever mix the N and the NW together. I usually mix the NW with the NI. If you mix the N and the NW, you get a bit of a greenish cast because one has blue and one has yellow. So that's going to make a greenish brown. So go with the NI and the NW, or the N and the N, the N and the N, or the N or the NI, but never mix the NW with the N. Just point of interest there.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. So for the developers, you have um, all developers are an acidic liquid, which if anyone didn't know that, you know now. Developer is an acidic liquid with a percentage of hydrogen peroxide in it. So the percentage on the bottle tells you the percentage of hydrogen peroxide. For instance, 10 volume has 3% hydrogen peroxide, 20 volume has 6%, so on and so forth. But the liquid itself has a pH of 3.5 to 4.5. So normally, your color is your alkalizer, your developer is your acidic liquid. When you mix them together, you create a specific alkalinity or an alkaline environment to create the result you're doing, either permanent, demi, or gloss. The more liquid you add, the less alkaline you're making that mixture, which is going to speak to our mixing ratios when we get there. One thing I wanted to point out about Difiaba Developer is our go-to cola and our fortifying rice protein. When people ask me, can I use any developer with Difiaba Color? I tell them Difiaba Color is specifically designed with plant-based ingredients to work in tandem with our developer, which also has plant-based ingredients. Go-to cola for your scalp, rice protein to fortify and strengthen your hair. So Michael, briefly tell us a little bit about these two ingredients so that we can stay on time.
Absolutely.
Please, thank you.
Yes. So go to cola is great for soothing the scalp. I know a lot of times we have clients who discover some irritants, but with go to cola, it helps to actually soothe that scalp and help really boost the hair follicle in a healthy way. And in doing so, it supports the strength of hair. It promotes growth through enhanced microcirculation because of go to cola and how it's designed. With our rice proteins, I'm sorry, let me just stop and just go back to how does it work and improve the scalp. It improves blood flow to the scalp, and it supports the nutrient-rich absorption for a healthier hair shaft, while enhancing the client comfort, as I spoke about. With fortifying proteins, rice protein, like hull of the protein, actually adds a lot of strength, right? If you had a dry piece of rice by itself, it'd be really like hard and thick. But because of that, this strengthens and fortifies the hair follicle to create resilience during the color process. And in doing so, it helps to fortify that hair structure and creating a more resilience to breakage during the process. And then, of course, doing that, it reduces that breakage and enhances the health and the longevity of the hair overall. So it's
Thank you,
great.
Michael.
Yeah, you're
That's
welcome.
great. That's great. All right, so let's go to our next slide, which is formulating and mixing. So here we're going to cover the 6 different ways and how to use Difiaba in 6 different ways. So when we talked about permanent and gray coverage, there are 2 ways to use Difiaba as a permanent color, right? So as a permanent application, Difiaba Color will be a permanent color once you mix it with 10 volume, right? So as a permanent application, specifically for level on level and gray blending, you're going to mix 1 part color to 1.5 parts 10 volume developer. This is best for clients with less than 50% gray coverage and clients that want subtle gray blending and a more natural look. But when you're trying to achieve 100% gray coverage, especially clients that have 50% gray or more, right? So more than 50% gray, you're going to mix Difiaba in a 1 part color to 1 part 20 volume ratio. The reason why you're using 20 volume is you want to create a greater explosion because it has a higher percentage of hydrogen peroxide, and you want to get that cuticle open better, and you want the color to go deeper. The 1-to-1 ratio is specifically so that you're not diluting the pigment, because the more developer you add, the less alkaline you make the color, but also the more you dilute the pigment. So when you're trying to cover gray that's more than 50%, a 1-to-1 ratio will keep that pigment stronger, and that'll give you more solid, opaque, or less reflective results, which for a client reads less warm. Especially 1 to 1.5 always reads a little warmer and more reflective. That's why we say use that when you're doing less than 50% gray, and use 1-to-1 with 20 volume when you want really efficient gray coverage. So that's something new for some of the people on this call, but it's something that I've always done instinctively because I'm an old school hair colorist, and 1-to-1 with 20 volume was always my go-to. So alkaline and acidic toning is simply this. We have what's called demi-developer or 5 volume. If you notice the percentage on the bottle, it's 1.5%. 1.5% means it has the lowest amount of hydrogen peroxide. So you're creating a lot less of an alkaline environment, so the color's not going to ride as deep into the cortex. Alkaline toning is when you mix Difiaba Color in a 1-to-2 ratio with the 5 volume. What you're doing is you're creating enough of a cuticle opening for it to create even, opaque, and durable tone coverage. This is best for level 7 and below. It's also best for clients that maybe get a single process and then a highlight, and then you want to tone the highlights. It's going to give you a better fill and a longer lasting toning option. Acidic toning is when you have clients that have virgin hair present. So like if you have virgin hair and I highlight you, I'm almost instinctively going to use, or exclusively going to use, the acidic toning option, which is Difiaba Color, 1 part color to 3 parts demi-developer or 5 volume. What this is going to do is, because you're adding 3 parts liquid, you're taking the alkalinity from the tube all the way down and creating an acidic toning environment, right? Because there's still ammonia in the tube, half the amount as traditional hair color, you might see a slight shift in the natural color, but it's not nearly enough to create warmth. So hair with virgin growth, you're going to choose the acidic toning option, and you're going to mix it in a 1-to-3 ratio. This is going to give you a softer tone-on-tone glossy finish, because you're also diluting those pigments down in a 1-to-3 ratio. So you're going to get a more sheer result, right? This is great for low maintenance hair color enhancement and adding shine. The alkaline toning can go anywhere from 5 to 20 minutes. The acidic toning could go anywhere from 5 to 10 minutes. You never exceed 10 minutes when you're trying to do an acidic toner, because if you exceed the 10 minutes, you'll get a base shift that you may not want. So using Difiaba Color as a permanent, and alkaline toning and acidic toning gives you those 3 traditional ways we talked about using Difiaba Color. Let's talk about our Ultra Lift series. So the Ultra Lift series is our 11 series, right? So the 11 series is traditional Ultra Lift, 1 part color, 2 parts, 40 volume. This will help you achieve 4 levels of lift without bleach. It's great on fine and fragile hair. Has to be done on virgin hair, obviously. But we say 4 levels of lift because we are a lower alkaline hair color brand, right? We're not straight ammonia. So we wouldn't call it a 12. We call it 11. But you can make it a 12 by adding something called Ultra Lift Lifting Booster. This is the clear swatch that's in your swatch book. It's called Ultra Lift Lifting Booster because it adds an extra level of lift to either the 11 series or anything else you add it to. For instance, if you were doing a level 9 and you wanted to create, you were doing it on more coarse or thicker diameter hair, and you wanted to give it a boost, you can add up to a quarter of your formula. You can add the Ultra Lift Lifting Booster. What it is it's a straight alkalizer in a tube. So you're adding more alkalinity to the already existing color by adding this. So you add an extra level of lift without bleach, usable with any level or any shade, and it gives you more flexible lift enhancement with any tone that you're adding it to. So that is the Ultra Lift series, the 11 series plus the Ultra Lift Lifting Booster. That lifting booster is a great tool for base breaking. And so this is part of the new messaging in the 6 ways, right? So base breaking is a popular thing. If you look at the model on the screen, you'll see that she's probably got a level 5, maybe 5, 6, and she's got highlights. And there are clients that like this heavily highlighted look. But because their base color is so dark, within 3 weeks, they have roots, right? You see this dark band of roots. And so a lot of us like to maybe have the option to soften that root line down, because you certainly can't come in every 4 weeks for a highlight, right? So what do you do in between highlights? Well, if you're waiting 8 weeks to do your highlights, maybe at the four week mark, you can come in and let me just soften those roots. That's called base breaking. So hair that's a natural level 5 and below, you would use the Ultra Lift Lifting Booster with our 5 volume or our demi developer in a 1 to 1.5 ratio, right? You're not diluting it as much. So what this is going to do is you'll put it on as a root touch up and you'll let it sit anywhere from 5 to 20 minutes. And this will soften that natural regrowth so that it blends better with the highlights. You do the same thing for higher levels, level 6 and above, but you change the mixing ratio and do it in a 1 to 2. You dilute it a little bit more, make it a little less alkaline so that it's not quite as strong for the level 6 and above. This again will soften the roots on level 6 and above, and this is a great tool to use in between your highlight appointments, right? So you're breaking the base. Some people, like me, do that with alkaline toning. I'll just choose alkaline toning in a 1 to 2 ratio. It'll break the base and simultaneously tone the highlights. But there are clients that don't want their highlights changed. They like them to look like raw lift. So the base breaking option is a better option because you're just doing the regrowth and you're not pulling it through to the highlights. So that's a fun fact and a great way to use the Ultra Lift Lifting Booster outside of the box. So last but not least, we have our color intensifiers, right? So this is our 6th thing in our lineup. We had permanent coverage, permanent color and gray coverage. We had alkaline toning. We had acidic toning. We had an Ultra Lift Lifting Booster. We had our lifting booster base breaker option. And number 6, we have our color intensifier. So our color intensifiers are designed to neutralize, correct, or enhance any formula. So this is a way to create a truly customized color, right? These are an ammonia-free pigment that you add to your color formula. When you add them, there is no extra developer needed, right? These are used to customize a formula. For instance, green neutralizes red, blue neutralizes orange, yellow, violet controls yellow, red enhances red, orange enhances your copper tones. When would you use that? Let's just say you have a client who you use the natural series or the natural intense series, and you want to cool it off even more. Add a little blue to it in the darker levels, add a little violet to it in the lighter levels, right? How much should you add? On the, I guess it's the right-hand side of your screen, you will see the quantity. So the quantity is based on the level. The lower the level, the more you can add. Because you're adding this with no extra developer, it's best to put your color and your developer in the bowl first, and then add this to the bowl, right? So the way it's measured is in centimeters, so it's a visual measurement. So let's just say you have these amounts are tailored to a 60-gram mixture. So let's just say you have 60 grams of color in your bowl. You're going to add the amount that's on your screen in centimeters. So to a level 1, the most you add is 10 centimeters. But if I go down to the bottom at a level 10, you add just 1 centimeter, right? The way to remember this is it's called the 11 rule. The level and the quantity, if you add them together, it makes the number 11. Level 1 plus 10 centimeters equals 11. Level 2 plus 9 centimeters equals 11, and so on. So as you, the quick way to remember this is, let's just say you have a client in your chair and you're going to put a level 6 on her, right? So you're using 6Ni and you want to add a little bit of blue to it. How much do you add? Count to the number 11, and that's the number. It's 5 centimeters. Notice on the level 11, which is our high lift series, we recommend not adding it because it may overpower the formula overall. Your 11 series doesn't have a heavy pigment weight. So if you add this to it, it may overpower the formula and make the hair too murky. Sometimes I've seen hairlines turn blue from that. Fun thing to remember is that there's always ways to break the rules. So we have a stylist that I met in upstate New York who uses the 11 series to tone the hair, and she adds like a centimeter of our 1N, our black, to make it smokier. That's a way to think outside of the box. So if you want to add these intensifiers to your level 11, do it with caution, proceed and use your discretion, and let us know how it works out. We, as a manufacturer, don't recommend that because it may overpower your formula. That's not true for everyone, especially if there's not a lot of gray hair in there. So it may work for you. So proceed with caution, but this is how you use the intensifiers. And then last but not least, I want to just go over some of our amazing blonding tools and advanced at-home care. So I'm going to kind of push through this a little bit quicker because we're close to timing. We have our Deco Max and our Deco Paste. These are great blonding tools. Deco Max is a blue-based, dust-free decolorizing powder, lifts up to 10 levels, neutralizes orange and yellow. It's your basic, everyday, blue-based decolorizing powder. It's my favorite for thicker textures, coarser hair, and darker levels. It has hydrolyzed wheat protein to soothe your scalp, guar gum to protect the hair shaft and the cuticles. Always mix it in a 1 part bleach, 2 parts developer mixture. And then we have our Deco Paste. It's my favorite everyday bleach for fine hair. Zero dust because it's a cream or a paste consistency. It lifts 6 to 8 levels. You can use it for any technique. Freehand balayage, great for on the scalp, all over blonde color correction. The key ingredients are argan oil and acai oil. These are designed to lubricate and protect your cuticles during the bleaching process. Again, 1 part bleach, 2 parts developer. Last but not least, we have our Color Keep collection. So the Color Keep collection is designed with pH balance in mind, right? Those of you that use the Color Keep already know that the Color Keep gives you perfect pH balance. When you color the hair, you raise the pH levels exponentially. The way to keep color maintained is to restore pH balance. The shampoo has a pH of 5.5, which mimics the pH of virgin hair. So after you rinse the color out, shampooing with Color Keep shampoo will restore pH balance. The Color Keep conditioner has a pH of 3.5. This is designed to constrict or close the cuticles, and this is going to help seal in and lock in that color. Also infused with our Bondplex, so you're getting bond strengthening plus pH balance. We have our leave-in whipped cream, which is a favorite. I love it because it has collagen and hyaluronic acid. This is designed for complete cuticle repair. It has a pH of 5, which is the pH of virgin hair. So it rides deep down to the base of the cuticle and repairing the entire surface of that cuticle with the collagen and the hyaluronic acid. We also have our leave-in repair cream, which I affectionately refer to as a primer because it has that pH of 3.5. It's going to help keep that cuticle locked. So it's a great blow dry primer. Then you have your thermal protect, protects up to 400 degrees, and your laminating serum, which is a traditional serum for shine and luminosity. For those of you that, not all our distributors carry our Monoi and Hibiscus line, but for those of you that use the Monoi line is a great tool for dry and dehydrated hair. The Monoi line is a very small care line. It has a shampoo, a conditioner, a mask, and then it has a concentrate for a deep conditioning tool. And then it has the leave-in moisturizer, which is like a spray leave-in. The Monoi is infused with coconut oil and gardenia, Tahitian gardenia. This is a great tool for coarser textures, dehydrated hair. There's more information on that online, but for those of you, your distributors don't carry this because this product is getting a facelift and a little bit of a revamp. So for those of you that are participating from a distributor, this will be coming soon to a distributor near you. So keep your eyes peeled for that. Same with the Hibiscus. The Hibiscus is a more lightweight shampoo conditioner care line for shine and luminosity. The shampoo is a lightweight version. There's a conditioner and a mask for deep conditioning. There's also a shine mist, which is a lighter shine option. And then there's the shine drops, which are a little bit heavier than the shine drops in the Color Keep laminating serum. But these shine drops are a really favorite for coarser textures, curly hair. The Hibiscus formula also has two post-color ampules that are designed to lock in color. So the pink one is a more lightweight leave-in color lock, and then the purple one or the violet one is a heavier moisturizing serum that you put on immediately after color, put it on, wait 5 minutes to seal the cuticle, and then rinse it out. You rinse that one out. And so now we get to the questions. So I'm trying to stay on time. That's why I kind of pushed through that a little bit quickly. So I see there are more questions in the chat. Okay, why does Difiaba not offer a yellow intensifier? Haha, Anna Cruz. So it's funny that you asked that because Michael asked me this question yesterday. And the answer is we had a yellow intensifier and no one used it. It sat on the shelf for several years. And what we learned was that there are 2 out of 100 people that want a yellow intensifier, and it was just not cost effective enough to sit on the shelf. So, what we decided was that in order for you to add warmth to your tone, you simply add a little bit of the 0.3 series, right? So Anna says golds are coming back on trend. We need to bring it back. And my answer to you is our 0.3 series is very warm. The 0.3 series comes in levels 9, 8, 7. They add so much warmth to the formula. And with our NW series, you have a brown that has an extra shot of yellow in it. So when I do my butterscotch or my buttercream blondes, I use the 0.3 series, or I just go straight to the NW series. Because the truth is, when you're adding yellow, sometimes it's just too brassy, especially near the root area. So I'm going to go through some of these other questions, right? So far, Jennifer, I only use Charcolite powder and paste on Asian hair. Beautiful with anti-brass shampoo and conditioner. No toner. I love it. Thank you, Jennifer, for that. If you like the Charcolite paste and powder, I encourage you to try the Deco Max or the Deco Paste as a colorless option when you're doing specifically like your traditional bleaches, right? So things that don't necessarily require cool blonde. So far I've only used the powder, but I really want to try the color. I have so many sensitive scalps. Yes.
Yeah.
Difiaba Color is amazing for sensitive scalps, specifically because it's a low alkaline. And then we have that go-to cola. Adding 3 series as a warm intensifier is an excellent suggestion. Perfect remedy for the absence of yellow. Yes, the point series is very yellow. In fact, the only time I use it is when I want to add more yellow to something. Galaxy Tab have a lot of clients with sensitive scalp. Yes, one of the best reasons why most people, and I think we have an educator from New York State who is very familiar with sensitive scalps. Her name is Athena. She's on here. Athena is a big fan of Difiaba Developer. In fact, some of the customers at that distributor use Difiaba Developer with other color lines just because of the go-to cola in it. So Difiaba Color, the fact that we are a low alkaline option and we have the go-to cola and the rice proteins in our developer, it really helps for sensitive scalps. Is it 100% gray coverage? Yes, you can get 100% gray coverage with Difiaba Color. If you have more than 50% gray or coarse gray hair, I recommend the NI series. What can I add to my NI to not have a green tint on 100% gray hair? If you're getting a greenish cast with the NI series, I would add a warm brown to it, specifically the C series. Or you can put a 0.3 in there. Very good for toners, especially in Eastern European hair when a level 6 and 7, it has a lot of ash pigment. Yes, that's true. What is that? Oh, it's Santana. Yes. Thank you for adding that Eastern European hair piece because, yes, Difiaba's micropigment, heavily pigmented formula is great for Eastern European hair when the level is 6 and 7 because of the ash pigments. I have a client allergic to other color lines, mainly ammonia. I tried Difiaba on her a year ago. She loved how it covered. No allergic reaction. That speaks volumes. Fun fact about ammonia. People say that they're allergic to ammonia. No one's allergic to ammonia. They have a sensitivity to it. The fact that we have half the amount of ammonia as traditional hair color is what makes us a better option for people that have sensitivity to ammonia. Thank you guys for joining us. Have a great day, and thank you for spending your Monday with Difiaba.